Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Self-Evident. Today we are going to be getting into Robert Morris and the Gateway Church scandal. Now, I realize that these events happened back in June and it might be old news. However, there are some new developments that you are not going to want to miss. However, before I get into that, I want to tell you about an important event that is upcoming. The Great COVID Con, What Went Wrong with the COVID-19 Pandemic and Why, is taking place this year. Our special guests are Dr. William Crevier, board-certified internal medicine and pediatrics physician at the Center for Primary Healthcare in Orland Park, Illinois, and Dr. Zum Hagen, co-founder of Fearfully and Wonderfully Made, a holistic and nutritionally based center located in Orland Park, Illinois, where he currently practices. These doctors are going to be discussing COVID-19, what went wrong with the pandemic, and why it did so. So this is a very important event that you are not going to want to miss. Go to illinoisfamily.org/events to find out more. That's illinoisfamily.org/events. All right, for those who are not familiar with Robert Morris is the former founder and head pastor of megachurch Gateway Church in Texas. And I say former because he is no longer the head pastor. He has resigned, and I'm going to tell you why. So on June 14 of this year, Cindy Clemishire, a 54-year-old grandmother, came forward with sexual abuse allegations against Robert Morris. She accused him of starting to sexually abuse her on December 25th, 1982, when she was only 12 years old, and it lasted until 1987, so 4.5 years of sexual abuse. And there are some things that are worth noting. First of all, Robert Morris and the elders of Gateway Church have never ever disputed these allegations, which not only gives them even more credibility, but there is evidence, not only Morris's resignation, but hard evidence from the parents as well as Cindy herself to prove the credibility of her allegations. Clemishire, in response to Morris's resignation, commented, quote, "Though I am grateful that he is no longer a pastor at Gateway, I am disappointed that the Board of Elders allowed him to resign. He should have been terminated." And I just can't imagine not only the pain that she experienced at the hands of Robert Morris, but also for her to see as she grew up into a young woman, got married, had kids of her own, to see the fame and the success that he had in life, knowing that he had done something so evil and so violating to her. I can't imagine the pain. And I'm so thankful that eventually the truth does come out, that lies do get overturned. And I want to note another important part of information. Robert Morris's own admission of guilt. CBS News reported that in a statement to Christian Post, quote, Morris admitted to, quote, inappropriate sexual behavior. When I was in my 20s, I was involved in inappropriate sexual behavior with a young lady in a home where I was staying. It was kissing and petting and not intercourse, but it was wrong. This behavior happened on several occasions over the next few years. Now, I hope that you're feeling the way I'm feeling. I don't appreciate that he calls it inappropriate sexual behavior with a young lady, because that implies not only that the woman was of age, but that it was consensual. And what we know is that a 12-year-old, because she was a minor, Cindy did not have capability to give consent. This was not inappropriate sexual behavior. This was criminal sexual abuse. This was criminal sexual molestation. And for you to downplay it and say, oh, it was just kissing and petting is absolutely disgusting, because even if it was just kissing and petting, it's still criminal. And so his downplaying of the facts of the case really make you wonder if he is truly repentant or if he truly understands the gravity of his sin. The elder board of Gateway Church released a statement on June 18 of 2024 saying how disgusted and horrified they were with the sexual abuse, that they were under the impression that it was an extramarital affair, which is horrible, of course, but that they did not realize it was with a child. They had no idea it was a criminal abuse case. And so after they released that statement, they also said that they were going to hire a law firm that was independent of Gateway Church to investigate the allegations of 1982 to 1987. However, there were congregants and people in general that were worried that there was only going to be an investigation on the period of 1982 to 1987. Because especially what we see when it comes to sexual abuse of minors is that usually, and Cindy has said this herself, she isn't sure that she isn't the only victim. And so really what the investigation should be about is from period of, I would say, like 1980 to present. Because like I said, usually on average, when it comes to sexual abuse of minors, when it comes to molestation of children, there is not only one victim, there are multiple victims, there are multiple criminal cases. And so while it's great they're launching an investigation and claim to be making progress, congregants are worried that they're only going to see part of the picture. And now this is a brief overview of what has happened in this abuse case with Robert Morris and Cindy Clemishire. And because this case is from June, people have started to move on to other news stories. However, Christian Post recently reported on an event that may have blown this case wide open for Gateway Church in general. But before I get into that, I want to tell you about another upcoming event. Marriage and family is under attack in our country and in our culture. That's why Illinois Family Institute is hosting our annual Worldview Conference this March on the topic of the high calling of marriage and family. Join us on March 8, 2025, with special guest speakers Dr. Brad Wilcox, Professor of Sociology and the Director of the National Marriage Project at the University of Virginia, and Scott Phelps of the Abstinence and Marriage Partnership Organization. This is an event that you are not going to want to miss. It's going to be encouraging and uplifting, and it's going to, like the title says, broadcast the high calling of marriage and family. Go to illinoisfamily.org/events to find out more and register your attendance. That's illinoisfamily.org/events. Like I said in the first half, I just wanted to give a brief overview on the events surrounding Cindy Clemishire and Robert Morris. I did not want to go into any detail because this is the point of the episode, what I'm about to talk about. And like I said, since the news story is from June, people are starting to move on. However, something happened very recently that, like I said, may have blown this case wide open, and people are starting to scrutinize Gateway Church in general. Christian Post reported this recently, quote, "A former Gateway Church member who had her membership revoked and was allegedly forced off church property by armed guards for publicly criticizing the Texas megachurch for its alleged lack of transparency and accountability amid child sex abuse allegations against founder Robert Morris is now speaking out." End quote. Valentina Hansen is the member in question, and according to her, she was forced off church property. Her membership was revoked because of a meeting she had with one of the elders and a campus pastor. This is what she said, quote, "I will say this, in my 47 years of life, I've never had my church membership revoked, dismissed, as they wanted to call it. I've never had my volunteer opportunities be dismissed." Valentina Hansen reports that she, along with other members, along with other people at Gateway, were part of a meeting with Tra Wilbanks, who is an elder who is the spokesperson to give reports to the congregation about the allegations and investigation on Robert Morris. And they met with Lorena Val, who is a campus minister of Gateway's Southlake campus. In this meeting that Hansen had along with other members and Tra Wilbanks and Lorena Val, there was eventually an accusation said that Wilbanks was falsely claiming that Gateway's lawyers that they hired to converse with Clemishire's lawyers, that they were falsely claiming that those lawyers were actually in communication with Clemishire's lawyer to receive restitution for the trauma that she endured at the hands of Robert Morris. Hansen also claimed that Wilbanks, who is a certified public accountant, was evasive when she was asking questions about the nature of Gateway's financial history. In this meeting, Hansen, along with others, also expressed concern that Stephen Wilson, who is a registered sex offender who spent 1 year in prison due to attempted sexual indecency with a child in 2002, is head of Gateway Church's prison ministry, which I personally, for myself, I think is not appropriate. I don't think it's ever appropriate for anyone who has been registered as a sex offender to have any type of leadership in a church. I'm not saying that they cannot attend church or be a member of a church. However, I think there is a line crossed when leadership is given to a member who is a registered sex offender. So the concerns of the congregation are worth noting, that someone is walking around where there are children present, and it seems that they have been given a level of authority and trust, and parents are a bit concerned about that, as I think any parent would be. However, Will Banks, in response to this concern, says, quote, "There's a lynch mob after Stephen Wilson and I won't allow it." So Will Banks is one of the elders that is promoting and supporting Wilson's authority over the prison ministry. Will Banks also asserted that Gateway's financial records from 2000 to 2024 would never become public information. So due to Hanson's concerns and questions about not only the financial history, but the nature of the investigation of Robert Morris and the nature of Stephen Wilson's position in the church, the elders of Gateway decided that she was in violation of Titus 3:10 for sowing discord among the membership of Gateway Church. The board wrote, quote, "As believers, all members of the Gateway community are bound by the commandments of the Bible, even in trying times. Despite our sincere attempts to walk with you down the path towards understanding and reconciliation, the board believes that you have violated biblical requirements by continuing to sow discord and conflict." So there's a lot of back and forth between the board and Hanson. So I just want to read one response that Hanson gave in an email. She said, quote, "I was never contacted or spoken to by any member of the eldership regarding these concerns. I received no warnings, no counseling, and no guidance on how to resolve any perceived issues. This is in direct contradiction to the principles outlined in Titus 3:10, which emphasizes the importance of addressing divisive behavior through direct conversation and warnings." So according to the Board of Elders, they're saying that they met with her and she was unwilling to compromise. She was unwilling to seek reconciliation. She was unwilling to be submissive in any way. However, Hanson is saying that she was never contacted. She was never spoken to. She was never counseled. She was never in a meeting with the elders to go over these concerns. So they revoked her membership because of this. And the day after her membership was revoked, she wanted to go to the church to talk to the elders about what on earth is going on. Because in the article from Christian Post, she loves Gateway Church. She has been a member there for 3 years. She was drawn to Gateway Church. So she doesn't want her membership revoked. She wants to know why. However, instead of meeting with her, she was not allowed to come in, and Hanson recorded herself trying to enter Gateway for the purpose of meeting with the elders, but she was asked to leave by 5 armed security guards. So instead of the elders being willing to meet with her, they wanted her to be escorted off church property by armed security guards. And now I'm not at liberty to give my full-fledged opinion because, again, we only know a little bit at this point. Like I said, this news story is very, very recent. I'm sure more information will come to light. However, instead of focusing on the details, I want to say a couple things about why this is important for Gen Z, why this is important for our generation, because we hear a lot of stories about members being treated poorly. We hear a lot of stories about pastors falling into deep, deep sin and having to be removed, like Robert Morris. And I just want to emphasize 2 things. 1 is the importance of church membership, and 2 is that our faith is not shaken when men fail us. So the first thing, a lot of people have mixed reviews, mixed opinions about the importance of church membership. And I can see how Valentina Hanson's experience with membership is very damaging. However, I want to emphasize what went wrong with the elders and Hanson and why the biblical guidance for membership is good and it's actually protecting of congregants. So church membership, according to Hebrews 13:17 and 1 Timothy 5:17, is for a local body of believers to submit themselves to leaders' authority. This makes it very clear when leaders are making decisions who they are impacting. It makes it very clear for the members to know who they are following. Sheep need a shepherd, to use that metaphor. Church membership is also great for accountability, according to Galatians 6:1-3. And not only, and this is the point I want to hammer down, not only is accountability for the leadership to keep the members accountable, membership is important as well for the members to keep the leadership accountable, to say, hey, we have submitted ourselves under your leadership. And if we see a concern or a question, we have every right as a voting member in this congregation to bring that concern or question to you and for you to give us clear answers. And so I want to go back to Hanson's experience with Tra Wilbanks, one of the elders of Gateway. Her experience and other members' experience, but the article only notes Hanson, so I think she's the main one. Her experience with going to the elders with concerns and questions is to be punished through having her membership revoked instead of those concerns and questions being delved into. Her concerns were not met with any validity. Her questions were not answered when it came to the church finances. And that's a big problem because, like I said, church membership is not only for leaders to keep members accountable, it's for members to keep leaders accountable. Because Hanson is a member, she has every right, along with other members that express their concern over Steve Wilson, to voice those concerns as members and as parents over a registered sex offender having a measure of authority in the church. In addition to this, because Gateway Church announced their investigation and Wilbanks is claiming to keep the church up to date on the investigation, for Hanson to ask questions about the details of what the lawyers are conversing with Clemenshire's lawyer about is completely appropriate. So in defense of Hanson, her concerns and questions were not met with the biblical definition that the elders should have done. In addition to this, scripture tells elders to care for specific people. 1 Peter 5:1-5, Acts 20:29-30. And membership clarifies this. Which people are the elders supposed to care for? So going back to the Clemmenshire case, going back to Hanson and Wilbanks, because Hanson is a member, has the duty to care for her. And it is evident in the elder board. And if what Hanson says is true, that the elder board is claiming that they went to her with their concerns and she refused to listen, whereas Hanson is saying that no one came to her with questions or concerns, that she was thrown off guard by having her membership revoked, the elders abdicated their responsibility to care for her. And so instead of disenchanting yourself with church membership, that this should actually make you love good church membership, that you're protected from a lot of these things. And when membership is used in an unbiblical way, that's where issues arise. So it's not church membership that is the issue, it's sinful man. And that goes into my second point. 1 Corinthians 2:5, our faith does not rest on the power of man, but in the power of God. When we see elders fail, when we see men fail, when we see teachers fail, pastors fail, elders fail, etc., this, as Christians, should not shake our faith. There has been a lot of news stories about pastors that have fallen into sin, and it has done great damage in a lot of ways to the Christian community, and especially to young people who are figuring out their faith, who are figuring out where to attend church. This can be extremely discouraging when you see pastors that you looked up to falling into sin. And yet this should not shake us because, like I said, our faith does not rest in the power of men because men fail us. Our faith rests in the power of God, and this should give us confidence and hope. So young Christian, Gen Zer, why you should care about this case, why you should care about Hanson and Wilbanks. And the main reason I want to give you, honestly, find a good church. Find a church that preaches the gospel. Find a church that loves its members. Find a pastor that is humble and shepherds his flock with care. Don't look for the flashy church. Don't look for the most popular, famous pastor. I'm not saying that pastors with big followings are necessarily bad, but that is not the criteria that Scripture gives us. Scripture tells pastors to be humble and to be kind and to shepherd well, to be the husband of one wife, to be sober-minded. You want to look for a pastor who is those qualities. In conclusion, For those of you who are younger or older, if you're still looking for a church or you have a church, don't be afraid. Bring your questions or your concerns to the elders, to the pastors, because biblically speaking, it is necessary sometimes and right for members of the congregation to have questions that they want answered, to have clarifications that they need. Don't be afraid to bring those to your pastor. And if your pastor is truly humble and caring about you, they are going to do their best to answer those questions and concerns without threat of punishment. And also, like I said previously, don't look for the flashy pastors. Don't look for the famous ones. Just because a pastor has a big following doesn't mean they have a pastorship heart, doesn't mean they have a servant heart, doesn't mean they have a humble heart. You want to find a church that nurtures and leads you into the way of righteousness, into becoming more like Christ. And sometimes maybe that means going to a church that's bigger, but sometimes it means going to a church that maybe no one knows who the pastor's name is. And that's okay, because our call in life is not to be famous or successful. It's to follow Christ. All right, that is all we have time for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope it was uplifting for you. I also hope it helped you put some things in perspective when it comes to the Christian community and how it is supposed to function. Until next time, let us firmly rely on the protection of divine providence. This is self-evident.